this was no accident.
What tipped police off that something was amiss?
They found some bruising around her neck.
John and Jessica often argued over custody issues and money issues.
Was this a crime of opportunity?
She was going to be home alone. The murder suspect used that information.
Her ex-boyfriend denied having anything to do with her murder.
Hi, I'm Nancy O'Dell. Today's crime expose takes us to DeBolt, Nebraska. The small town was rocked by the senseless murder of a young mother. As police tried to find out what happened to Jessica Nelson, her friendship with two men pulled the investigation in different directions. But police and family would soon learn, be careful who you call your friend. The day was June 25th. A 28-year-old woman named Jessica Nelson hadn't shown up for work, and her mother was contacted.
Jessica didn't show up for work that day, which was highly out of character for Jessica because she was an extremely reliable employee, never really missed any work, and they were concerned.
Missy Nelson couldn't reach her daughter by phone, so she drove to Jessica's home to check on her.
She immediately went to Jessica's house, saw that her car was in the driveway and felt, hey, she's home, she's safe, thought maybe she had gotten in an accident.
Getting no answer at the door, Missy used her key to let herself into the home.
When Missy walked into Jessica's house, she was alarmed to find it completely dark, but heard water running from the bathroom. Missy opened the door and found Jessica in the fetal position, water up to her nose, holding a phone charger. She initially thought that, oh my God, Jessica fell in the tub. She's laying there, she's unconscious. So Missy, in a panic, drains the water in an attempt to try to revive and bring her daughter back and save her.
Initially, her mother didn't know exactly what had happened, whether foul play was involved or, if her daughter had a bad accident.
As Jessica lay lifeless, Missy drained the bathtub of water and called 911.
911, do you need police, fire, rescue? I don't understand a word you're saying. What's going on?
I just saw my daughter dead in the bathtub. And she slipped and I don't know how long she's been there.
She tried to revive her unconscious daughter, but it was too late. Omaha police arrived and confirmed that Jessica Nelson was dead. But something about this death was unsettling. So at what point did police notice that there was something more to this?
They immediately noticed there's some inconsistencies. They noticed the blood in the bedroom and living room. One of Jessica's fingernails is bent back. Police were able to determine that Jessica's situation was highly suspicious and believed foul play was involved.
Police have the training to figure out things almost immediately when on the scene. And while they were on this scene, they were able to figure out that this was no accident. They could see there was some sort of a struggle. Looking at Jessica Nelson's body, they found some bruising around her neck and quickly understood that this was no accident.
Upon closer inspection of the crime scene, police knew that there was some suspicious behaviors due to the nature of Jessica holding the phone cord. It appeared that strangulation was a possibility at this time.
The medical examiner collected DNA blood evidence from the couch, the bedroom, and under Jessica's fingernails for analysis. Police walked through the house looking for signs of forced entry, but saw none.
Anytime that we have a crime scene and it's no forced entry, it would indicate that Jessica willingly opened the door for the person and was comfortable having them in her house.
The possibility that Jessica Nelson knew her killer alerted police to look at those closest to the victim. They started with John, an ex-boyfriend and father of her 6-year-old son. The ex would be the first person police would look at, correct?
When police believe that the suspect could be possibly somebody that the victim knew, they automatically look to close relationships. Jessica had an ex-boyfriend that she shared custody of a 6-year-old son.
Ex-boyfriend was identified as a possible suspect in her murder because of some issues between their custody situation with their son, and he had even dropped off their son the day before Jessica's murder.
Police immediately contacted John in an attempt to find out his whereabouts on the night of Jessica's murder.
So, what did you learn about their relationship? What was it like?
Jessica's mom, she revealed that John and Jessica often argued over custody issues and money issues.
Police asked John to come in and talk to them about Jessica's murder, and he agreed.
He's a natural suspect too, because they have a history and they have a shared baby. Police brought John in for questioning due to his volatile relationship with Jessica.
Her ex-boyfriend denied having anything to do with her murder.
John gladly shared his phone data and also submitted to a DNA sample.
Omaha police detectives looked into Jessica's phone records in the hours before she was killed to determine who she may have been in contact with. And one number appeared again and again, up to the day when she was found dead. So what did the phone records show?
Jessica's phone records indicated that she had received multiple text messages from a family friend for the last several weeks.
Police went through Jessica's phone records. They were able to identify somebody that she had been texting and talking to up until the day that she was murdered.
Police needed to speak with a friend and find out what they might know about Jessica's murder. There was no way to know where this would go, but every lead would be investigated to find the killer.
She was going to be home alone. The murder suspect used that information.
He had never been at Jessica's house the night she was murdered.
He adamantly denied any involvement in Jessica's murder.
Omaha police investigating the murder of Jessica Nelson learned that a family friend named Matthew Kidder had been texting her in recent weeks. Police also learned that Kidder was well known to Jessica and her family for years.
Matthew's and Jessica's fathers were both best friends. Jessica and Matthew had grown up together. They were lifelong friends and were like brother and sister.
The text suggested that Kidder was trying to move from the friend zone into something more. As far as what their relationship was like, what did you learn?
From Jessica's text messages, Matthew Kidder wanted to have a serious relationship with her, and she wasn't ready to do that. She was trying to ease him down gently.
Matthew had been trying to persuade Jessica to become more than friends. And according to the text messages that Jessica had sent back, she was trying to explain to him that she did not like him in that way.
Police needed to hear Matthew Kidder's explanation for the texts and about his interest in the victim.
Matthew was brought in for questioning, and he adamantly denied any involvement in Jessica's murder.
I'm not responsible for Jessica's death. I'm not responsible for what happened to her.
What information did he share with police?
He offered up information that Jessica's post on Facebook had let everybody know that she was going to be home alone that night.
Somebody had been watching the house for a while to know that she was 100% alone there.
And the murder suspect must have used that information in order to catch Jessica home alone that night.
Detectives asked about the text that Kidder had been sending Jessica, which hinted he wanted more than just a friendship.
Me and Jess, we've always had the relationship where we have like inside sexual innuendo jokes, even though we've never had the interest in each other like that.
Kidder denied that he was wanting a serious relationship with her, saying that their relationship was more of a brother and sister and it was more playful than serious.
She had a really good heart.
Yeah.
Good mother, good friend. I don't think I've Never heard her not put herself out for somebody to be.
Kidder told police that he was working the night of Jessica's murder and could verify his alibi. So before the interview wrapped up, investigators noticed something suspicious on Kidder's hand. What was that?
They noticed that he has a small cut on his hand. When questioned about the injury to his hand, Matthew stated that he received the cut at work.
He made up something to say that he had actually cut it while he was at work and he had never been at Jessica's house the night she was murdered.
Kidder offered to provide his DNA to prove any evidence found at Jessica's home wasn't his. Omaha police collected a sample as they had with others in contact with Jessica. So with nothing concrete to keep holding him, Matthew Kidder was released. And days later, Jessica Nelson's autopsy results came back. What did the autopsy show?
The autopsy confirmed that Jessica Nelson had been strangled to death with that phone cord that she was found holding. There were signs of sexual assault.
Following the interviews conducted as part of their investigation, there was no one who could be tied to the murder. It was as frustrating for police as it was for Jessica's family.
Jessica's murder case seemed to hit a stalemate. It went cold. No more suspects or leads were to be followed, and now all evidence was relying on the DNA.
Until the DNA tests were completed, it was a waiting game for investigators. Police were no closer to identifying a suspect than they were the day Jessica was killed. They needed a break if they were to find her killer.
He had been convicted of sexually assaulting and spent 5 years in jail.
Omaha police were at an impasse in the murder investigation of Jessica Nelson. Potential suspects had been eliminated, but family friend Matthew Kidder had come onto their radar. Until DNA tests were completed, investigators had little to go on. But 2 weeks later, the test results arrived.
Jessica's ex-boyfriend, John, was actually several miles away from Jessica's home at the time of her murder, and the DNA did not match any of the DNA found at the crime scene.
Police eliminated him as a suspect.
2 DNA samples were identified on the phone cord. One of that being Jessica Nelson, and the second DNA was attributed to Matthew Kidder. Matthew Kidder's DNA was also located under Jessica's fingernails.
When investigators find DNA underneath the fingernails, that usually tells them that there's been some sort of struggle, and Jessica, before her death, scratched him, did anything that she could to try to save her own life at the hands of one of her friends that she had known for a really long time, showing that there may have been a struggle, but also how close of contact the victim had with the suspect.
The DNA results electrified the investigation. Police ran Kidder's DNA through a police database, and the results were even more surprising. They discovered this family friend had a disturbing history. What exactly was it that police learned about Kidder's past?
Matthew was a convicted sex offender. He had been convicted of sexually assaulting a family friend and spent 5 years in jail for that assault. He was a registered sex offender with the state of Nebraska.
Police would need more to build a case, but Kidder was now their prime suspect. They called him in for a second interview, and this time they had a plan. They only informed the suspect that they found his DNA, holding back any specifics. Kidder took the bait.
Once Matthew Kidder understood that his DNA could be linked to Jessica's house, the scene of the crime, he started making up multiple excuses as to what may have happened. Matthew Kidder, he said that he had helped her move and his sweat may have been all over the couch, plus his blood because he was picking a scab while he was there.
Pretty much bleeding everybody's houses I go to. Because I get bored and either pick at a scab or I cut myself on something.
Trying to justify why his DNA would have been all over her house. When asked for a DNA sample, Matthew Kidder willingly went along with it. Either he was too arrogant or just too stupid to understand that giving up a DNA sample could tie him to this murder, and that surprised investigators that he was willing to give it up so quickly.
Police began to track Kidder's movements in the hours leading up to Jessica's murder. They subpoenaed his cell phone records. So what did you learn from those phone records?
The cell phone records proved that he had actually been in the area of Jessica's house the time she was believed to be murdered. His cell phone pinged off a nearby tower. The cell phone records and the DNA were two things that Matthew Kidder couldn't get around when it came to the physical evidence. Prosecutors believe the text messages really played out that night that Jessica was murdered. They believe Matthew Kidder knew that she was alone because of the Facebook post, that Matthew Kidder was wanting a sexual relationship with Jessica, going to her house, making advances on her. When she denied him, Matthew killed her.
Police theorize that Kidder placed Jessica's body in a bathtub of water to destroy evidence of sexual assault, but he failed miserably in hiding his DNA.
I'm not responsible for Jessica's death. I'm not responsible for what happened to her. I wish I was there to stop it. I wish I had known something was going on so I could have saved my friend.
Matthew Kidder was charged with first-degree murder and the death of Jessica Nelson.
Stand up, man.
No, I'm not going to jail for this.
It's not up to you. The decision's been made, so I need you to
It's the
stand
wrong
up.
decision.
That's something you can take up with your attorney.
Matthew Kidder never showed any remorse for killing Jessica Nelson. He still denied it.
Matthew Kidder was tried and convicted for the murder of Jessica Nelson.
Matthew Kidder never showed any remorse for killing Jessica Nelson, a family friend of his family for decades. Their fathers were best friends for 25 years. Even at his sentencing, he still denied it, and he was defiant towards the judge.
He was sentenced to life in prison plus an additional 50 years. The so-called family friend was exposed as a predator who had assaulted a friend previously and done time. Jessica bravely fought her attacker, and in the struggle, inadvertently saved evidence that would send him to prison. The senseless murder of the young mother was solved through forensic evidence, and Matthew Kidder's arrogance of believing he was untouchable. Jessica Nelson's family is now left to raise her son without a mother. And the man they used to call a family friend will live out his days in prison. And now it's time for today's Safety Spotlight. While exes are always the primary suspect for police investigations, in the case of Jessica Nelson, it was a jilted friend who was behind her brutal slaying. Jessica had rejected Matthew Kidder, but he wouldn't take no for an answer. While hurting someone's feelings is never easy, it's important that you consider the following precautions in order to ensure your safety. If you plan on rejecting someone, try not to do it face-to-face, but if you have to, meet them in a public place. This can help mitigate any potential for escalation. And if you know the person has a history of violence, take extra care to stay alert and avoid contact. And if the situation does escalate, contact the police or the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE. I'm Nancy O'Dell. For all of us here at Crime Expose, please join us next time and stay safe.